stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. For the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, sir. We'll now have a scripture reading from the County of Wong, City of Clark, citizen number 0490, Jack Paradas.
A reading from the Book of Psalms. Lord, who shall abide in thy tabernacle? Who shall dwell in thy holy hill? He that walketh uprightly and worketh righteousness and speaketh the truth in his heart. He that backbiteth not with his tongue, nor doeth evil to his neighbor, nor taketh up a reproach against his neighbor. In whose eyes a vile person is contemned, but he honoreth them that fear the Lord. He that sweareth to his own hurt and changeth not. He that putteth not out his money to usury, nor taketh reward against the innocent. He that doeth these things shall never be moved.
Okay, we're going to sing our alma mater today, and we're really going to sing it. Are you guys ready?
Yes, sir.
Are you going to give it all you have?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have some help up here from City of Triol, citizen number 0171, Nathaniel Chamberlain, and City of Kearsing, number 0195, Brody Phelps. Maestro, please.
Here in the Cherry Valley, Morris came with trees with cheer. That's where our Legion Boy State meets this year. We learn to live together, learn democracy, a melting pot for color, creed, and nationality.
No, you're not there yet. One more time, please.
A little bit louder and a little bit worse.
Let's go.
Here in the Cherry Valley, more the campus rings with cheer. That's where our Legion Boys State meets this year. We learn to live together, learn democracy, a melting pot for color, creed, and nationality.
Not quite. Almost. One more time, please.
Here in the Cherry Valley, Morehead campus rings with cheer. That's where our Legion Boys State meets this year. We learn to live together, learn
We tried to show Nick Solise's video the other day, and we had technical problems. We're going to try and show it again now. Let me remind you that Nick Solis was a unique individual, the world's greatest Boy Stater, I guarantee you. He was a wonderful man. He even had his final health event on this campus during Boy State, which was a dark day for Boy State, but I think it was where Nick wanted to be. So listen to his litany of the flag. This is worth listening to, believe me.
The litany of the American flag. Betsy Ross stretched the flag across her lap as she sewed on the stars of the 13 colonies. General Washington carried it in his boat as he crossed the Delaware. The colors waved majestically in dawn's early light as the smoke of the cannons cleared over Fort McHenry. Valiant Union soldiers unfurled the nation's colors in battle with their rebel kin. It flew over President Abraham Lincoln as he read the Gettysburg Address. General Custer's lead horsemen carried it in the Battle of Little Bighorn. Teddy Roosevelt charged up San Juan Hill with our glorious colors. Admiral Dewey sailed the American flag into Manila's harbor. It waved from the observation car of General Pershing's troop train of soldiers that chased Pancho Villa across the Rio Grande on the Mexican border. It flew from the mast to the troop ships as the doughboys and GIs climbed the gangplanks, accompanied by the strains of Over There and Yankee Doodle Dandy. The flag today flies over the graves of our martyred soldiers, buried in the poppy fields of Flanders. It flew over the dunes of the Sahara as American soldiers breathed sand through their nostrils. Old Glory was painted on the gliders that carried the screaming eagles to their parachute jump over Nijmegen and Arnhem in Nazi-controlled Holland. Valiant American infantrymen scaled the rocky cliffs of the monastery walls of Monte Cassino with the American flag in hand. The flag was clearly evident on each of the landing barges that hit the Normandy beaches. The red of our colors matched the red blood of the snow of Bastogne in the Battle of the Bulge. And in spite of overwhelming odds, it was never surrendered to the enemy. The American flag replaced the swastika over Eagle's Nest by order of General Eisenhower. It was painted on the fuselage of Flying Fortresses, Liberators, Lightnings, Mustangs, Marauders, C-46s, C-47s that flew over the China, Burma, and India theater. The flag was emblazoned on the sides of General Patton's tanks and jeeps that crushed the Siegfried Line. Battle wagons and destroyers and PT boats flew it over the ocean's waves. Our glorious colors were raised on Mount Suribachi in Iwo Jima. General MacArthur called the flag back to the Philippines. As the smoke of battle cleared, the flag could be seen flying from the highest coconut palms of the small atolls of faraway islands. Seabees planted the flag on the earth movers that built airstrips and erected flagpoles to fly the flag of freedom. It was painted on the bombs of the B-29 superfortresses that were carried to the empire of the rising sun. The flag was present on the deck of the USS Missouri in Tokyo Harbor as General MacArthur accepted Japanese surrender. America's colors waved proudly over Pork Chop Hill, Incheon, Panmunjom, and still does. It flew over the rice paddies of Vietnam and the steaming jungles of Laos and Cambodia. The American flag was greeted by the residents of Lebanon, Grenada, and Panama. Our nation's colors flew over the American naval vessels in the Persian Gulf and the sands of Iraq in Desert Storm. In Operation Iraqi Freedom, our flag of victory flies over the castles of Saddam Hussein in Baghdad. Old Glory flies over Sacred Ground Zero in silent tribute to the innocent lives lost in the destruction of the Twin Towers by international terrorists. The American flag has always welcomed the waves of immigrants that sailed past the Statue of Liberty to Ellis Island. The flag gracefully adorns the tomb of the unknown soldier in Arlington. It flies in every national veteran cemetery, and veterans place it on the graves of their fallen buddies. The flag reminds us of the sacrifices of our valiant youth in the theaters of war. Our colors fly every day of the year over the Capitol, the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, Grant's Tomb, and all public buildings and post offices. It waves over the Korean Memorial and the names on the Vietnam Wall in our nation's capital. The American flag was painted on the side of all rockets sent into space. It was very visible on the side of the Challenger and the spacecraft Columbia, whose crew of brave American astronauts gave their lives in the exploration of outer space. The flag flies over all public schools, and children carry it in parades with color guards. The flag flies over the capitals, governor's executive mansions, American foreign embassies through the world. Families proudly display the American flag in the front of their domiciles. The flag adorns the casket of our deceased veterans, and the widows accept it after the veteran receives his last salute. And when the flag is tattered and torn, our national icon, the symbol of freedom, the American way of life, it should be burned and converted into ashes. Consecration, not desecration. Lord, Lord, protect the American people. Protect the red, the white, and the blue.
We miss Nick. We'll now have a short break with a musical interlude. Maestro, if you please.
Firefighting foam came in. hard to get them things clean so that you don't get sick and throw things right at trees. But it's worth the try. The other good ones, if we pull in the cord sometimes, we had a carrier, we couldn't dock because we had to anchor out. So civilians would always want to come out to the boats and check out the ship. We'd make a sign that said beer on it. Had a bucket, rope, and lower it down. We were far down the strip clubs and where their boats out had a bunch of girls on it. You got like 3,000 guys on this side of the ship, they're all looking down. Girls, boat drive around the other side, and run to the other side.
Get it back to the other side now. Yeah, really. Is the other speaker here as well?
Yep. Everybody's here.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The aviation captain.
And then the
Yeah, and then Stucker, and then Scotty Hope. He's going to talk about.
oh, right, okay. Your brain's not functional right now.
It's not required.
Take your seats, please.
Quiet down, gentlemen. Quiet down. We have a special speaker this morning, Captain Matt Grothaus of the United States Marine Corps, who's in Marine Corps Aviation. He's going to talk to you a little bit about this. Captain.
Hey, good morning. Can you hear me all right? Cool. Hey, so my name is Captain Grothaus. I'm with the 1st Marine Corps Recruiting District, but my background is that I'm a CH-53 Echo pilot in the Marine Corps. So what does that mean? Giant heavy lift helicopters. We call it Big Iron because they pick things up and put it back down. kind of like you do at the gym. It's a big 3-engine helicopter. You might have seen Transformers. It's one of the Decepticons. It's our claim to fame. So that's my background, flying CH-53s in the Marine Corps. I enlisted in 2005. I was at first a crew chief on the Osprey. So I was like, picture like the door gunner in a helicopter. I kind of did that job for a little while. And then they picked me up to go to school. I went to the Naval Academy and became an officer. And then I was able to go and be a pilot. Flew out of San Diego, California, deployed to Okinawa, Japan, and Baghdad, Iraq. And then I came to this billet where I now support the recruiting effort by sharing my experiences with people so that they can kind of, see if it's something that interests them, give you an example of what a career as a Marine Corps aviator looks like. So that's who I am. What I'm here today to talk to you guys about is, Marine Corps aviation and if there's a future in that for you guys potentially. So 40% of the Marine Corps is aviation. You don't often think of Marines as pilots, but a large part of it is aviation. And that's because the big thing about the Marine Corps is that we all support the main effort, which is the ground Marine, and they can't get around without air support and a ride. So that's what we do. Marine Corps aviation is raise a hand. Let me get some hands raised if you've seen Top Gun, or maybe the new one, probably. Yeah, right on. That's pretty cool. There's only one thing cooler than naval aviation, and that's Marine Corps naval aviation. We do the same stuff. We go to the same school. So a lot of my counterparts in flight school were Navy personnel. And then we graduate, and then the difference being really that we focus all of our assets on helping the Marines on the ground. So we've got several platforms. We've got helicopters. So we've got the CH-53, which is what I fly. It's a big, heavy lift helicopter. We've got Cobras, which are like little gunship helicopters. Hueys, which are similar. If you've seen any Vietnam movies, you've probably seen a Huey buzzing around. We've got Ospreys, which take off like a helicopter, fly like an airplane. Those are also in Transformers. And then we've got our jets. We've got Aviate Harriers. We've got F-18s, the new F-35s, or Joint Strike Fighters. Those are equivalent to the bad guys in that Top Gun movie we just referenced. And then we've got C-130s, so big cargo planes. So a lot of options. If you're sitting in this room and you're thinking, could I be a Marine Corps aviator? I'm telling you, you probably can. It's an option for just about everybody in this room, considering if you're medically qualified. But it's something that you got to plan for, and so that's kind of what I want to talk to you guys about. You're in a stage of your life where you got to make some decisions. I guess you don't have to, but you're gonna make some decisions over the next few years about what you want to do when you grow up, when you become an adult. You're young men now, and soon you're going to be older men, and you're going to have careers. And if you want to be an aviator, Marine Corps aviation is an option for you. So to be a Marine Corps aviator, you've got to be a Marine Corps officer first. To become an officer, you've got to have a college degree. So if you're sitting there and you're saying, I want to be a pilot, I'll tell you right now, the first thing you got to do is you got to go to school, you got to get that 4-year degree, and you have to apply to become a Marine Corps officer. We have several different paths for that. We've got ROTC, which you're going to hear more about in a minute. You've got the service academies, and then you've also got our commissioning programs, both platoon leaders course, which is an option for you to attend officer training during college, and then you've also got officer candidates course, which is a way to get commissioned after you graduate. So several avenues to becoming an officer, and we can link you up with people to give you more details on that should you decide you're interested in that. But you go to school, you graduate, you go to training, OCS, 10 weeks in Quantico, Virginia. This is like officer boot camp. They're going to yell a little bit. They're going to stress you out. The point is to stress you out and see how you react under stress. To be an officer, and specifically in this case to be a pilot, you have to be able to operate under stress. So when you go to those trainings, think of it like when they're yelling at you and they're making you do push-ups and stuff. They're actually just trying to stress you out to see if you can react the right way. So, and I challenge you all, anytime you're experiencing hardship in your life, think about how you're reacting to that hardship, because that's what separates the men from the boys. If you break down and cry when things get hard, then you got a little growing up to do, But that's what those trainings are for. So it's 10 weeks. It's not easy, but it's definitely doable. Anybody can do it if they want to. It's more of a test of your will. So 10 weeks of that. You graduate, you go to what's called the basic school. I like to think of that as 6 months of Marine Corps University. They're not really yelling at you anymore. It's not really like a stress fest anymore. Now they want you to learn. So like I told you before, in aviation, we support the ground marine, and everywhere in the Marine Corps, we support the infantry marine. TBS is where you learn what more about that. So how do we support the ground marine? Well, you got to first know what the ground marine does. So you're going to do a little bit of tactics. You're going to do some rifle platoon stuff. Then you're going to learn about other ways we support the ground marines so that you don't conflict with other support assets. So you're going to learn about artillery. You're going to shoot the cannons. You're going to call in airstrikes. You're going to blow stuff up using explosives. You're going to set up defensive perimeters and use all of the engineering equipment to do that stuff. You're going to go on long hikes with a lot of equipment and simulate what it's like to fight a war on the ground. But if you're going to be a pilot and you've got that in your contract, you're only going to do it for that 6 months. But 6 months, you leave there as a basically trained officer and a well-rounded Marine officer ready to go to flight school. This is where it gets really fun. So you graduate TBS, go down to Pensacola, Florida, and you're going to start flight school. Flight school is about 2 years long. In flight school, you're going to fly fixed wing. No matter if you go helicopters or jets or cargo planes, everybody flies T6 Texans, which is like a little two-seater ejection turboprop aircraft. It kind of looks like a modern version of a World War II fighter. They're pretty cool. You're going to learn to fly that. You're going to eventually solo, fly by yourself. And then based off your performance in flight school, you'll graduate, and then you will select what you're going to fly next. From there, you'll select either helicopters, which is kind of encompassing all of the platforms I mentioned before, or jets, which is, again, all the platforms, or C-130s. So those are your options. Ospreys is also like a separate option as well. So that determines your follow-on flight training. We've got intermediate and advanced is just extra names for extra layers of flight training. But all said and done, helicopters is about 18 months. Jets, it's closer to 3 years of flight training. So at this point, you've been in training for a long time, but you're competent at your job. So you're moving on from school. You get your wings of gold pinned on your chest, and you go out to the fleet. And that's where you get to support Marines and start executing real-life missions. So in the fleet, you've got deployments. I'm sure you've all heard, like we go not to Afghanistan anymore, we go to Iraq still. We go to Okinawa, Japan. We work with partner forces around the globe. And we also deploy on what's called the Marine Expeditionary Unit. And that's when we take a Marine Air Ground Task Force. So remember, I said everything in the Marine Corps supports the Ground Marine. The Ground Marines don't go anywhere without all of their logistics, like supplies, intelligence, commanders, aviation, all that stuff. They get on a boat, and then they go float around the ocean. They go to foreign countries. They train foreign militaries, and they're also the United States 911 force. If something happens, they are the first to respond. So the MIU is going to be, if there's turmoil in a country, most recently, I guess 2011, we had in Libya, we had the Arab Spring. The MIU was the first to respond to get Americans out of Libya and support people as required. So, you're out there on the boat, you think you're going to be going on a tour of certain countries, and then, one phone call can change all that. So that's kind of what the pipeline looks like. You get out to the fleet, and then at that point, it's up to you. Like, do you want to stay in for a career, or do you want to get out? For some of you, you might just be thinking, hey, I want to be a pilot. I'm not sure if I want to be in the Marine Corps. What I will tell you is this. If you were to finish high school and go off to start flying for the civilian airlines, you're going to be basically working for free for about 5 to 8 years, where you're basically making enough money to survive while they basically pay you in flight hours. And then at about the 10-year mark, you might be able to make a captain, and that's when you start earning a higher salary as a pilot. In the military aviation, specifically, in this case, the Marine Corps, it's kind of cool because you start out right off the bat, you're going to make a reasonable salary. You're going to be able to fly some of the coolest aircraft and some of the coolest missions available for any aviator. And then when you get out after that, 8-year commitment, you're actually going to have quite a few flight hours and be able to transition into the civilian airlines from there too. So I tell you that just because if you're thinking about aviation as a potential career path, or maybe you don't know what you want to do, but you think being a pilot would be pretty cool, I want you to know that it is an option for you, and that's kind of what that looks like with us in the Marine Corps. With that, I guess I'll open up the floor for questions. Does anybody have any questions for me about Marine Corps aviation, what I had for breakfast today, you name it? Anybody? Oh, okay, there we go.
you doing, sir? How many hours do you have in the CH-53?
So about 750. That's probably on the lower end for 53 pilots. I'll tell you guys a little bit more about, I told you about the Marine Corps. We kind of support the ground Marines, and it's a big organization with a lot of different jobs that are required. So after my first deployment on the CH-53 to Okinawa, Japan, there was an opportunity to volunteer to go fill a billet in Iraq. So I volunteered to go work with the Army, and I did 6 months where I helped train and equip our partner forces in Iraq, those being the actual Iraqi military. So it was a different mission than aviation. However, being an aviator, having that expertise helped me. I worked a lot with their squadrons. So I tell you that to also describe that, you know, when you sign up for these commitments in the service, it's actually a pretty big organization. It's not like you're definitely going to do one thing all the time. I was able to move around, and it was something where, like, nobody was telling me I had to go. I saw that it was available, and I asked, and the Marine Corps leadership wants Marines to be happy. So if there's something that you want to do and there's a need for it, they'll usually let you go do it, and that was an example of that. So, but with that being said, with the hours, your typical first tour Marine will leave with about 1,000 hours, and then if you do a 6-year tour, sometimes you'll extend and do a little bit longer of a flight tour, usually between like 1,500 and 2,000 for that first initial commitment. And then if you stay in for a career, you go up from there. So does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I just got to get. Before you ask a question, please state your name, Boise State number, Boise State County, Boise State City. Thank you.
Hey.
I'm Aiden McLojak, number 0393. That's my county, Shiberling, city, Salise. I wanted to ask you, since everyone has met a great man, who's the greatest man that you have ever met, and what was he like?
Ooh, that's tough. I wasn't prepared for that. Let me take a second. Greatest man I've ever met, and what was he like? You know, I met Colonel Ripley. I don't know if you know that name. There's a Colonel Ripley. He was an older gentleman when I met him, but he came out when I went to the Naval Academy Preparatory School, and he handed us our 50-year link in the chain coins when we graduated from the prep school. But he was a Marine officer in Vietnam who, at one point, the enemy was advancing. There was a bridge between the friendly forces and the enemy, and Colonel Ripley climbed hand over hand like a jungle gym, laying explosives along the bridge while he was under fire, and then crawled back and blew the bridge and saved the friendly forces from certain demise. And I have a lot of respect for him for that, but when I met him, he was very humble and just like a normal guy, very unassuming. You wouldn't think of him as a guy that would do something like that. And I think that is, when you meet somebody who you've heard all the lore and you know that they are very high-performing individuals, but then they don't act like they're better than you, I think that says something about his character.
Thank you, sir.
Good question. Yes.
Hello, my name is Jerry Alice.
Hey.
My number is 40422. My county is Shiberling, and my city is Burnett.
You guys are crushing it with the question game.
Very curious what you had for breakfast this morning.
All right. I don't eat breakfast. That's a trick question. I don't eat till after lunch. Good question.
Hello, sir. My name is Evan Hockwell. My number is 0299. I'm from Stemper County, and I'm from Mullen City. My question is, did you ever get a chance to work alongside different branches of the military? And if so, what were their strong suits? Thank you.
All right, yeah, so like I just said on that deployment, I went over to Iraq to work with partner forces. I actually worked with people from different branches and different countries as well. I was on an international coalition, but it was manned by the Army mostly. So I was with the 10th Mountain Division, who actually, they're a local unit. And they, it was pretty cool working with them, seeing how they operate. It taught me a valuable lesson in that we think that we're that much different, but we're also actually very similar. The culture across the military is very similar. There are minor differences. Our PFTs are different. We do put pull-ups instead of push-ups. You know, and I think that at the end of the day, you're going to find good people in all branches. One thing I will say about the Marine Corps is I think that it's a small organization, so we just have we have the ability really QC our personnel a little bit easier. Army, Navy, Air Force are large branches, so you're going to get a lot more diversity, but in many ways it's their strength too, because they have different backgrounds of what experiences they've had. So while you might not have a whole bunch of PT studs, you're going to have people that maybe have other skills that they bring to the table. Different is, it's really not even that much different, but just a bigger organization, so you're going to be exposed to a little bit more there.
Thank you, sir.
Good question.
Good morning, sir. My name is Nathan Lawrence. I'm from Shiberling County,
All right.
City of Burnett. My number is 0415. And I was wondering if you have any tips on qualifying for flight school.
All right, so to qualify for flight school, it's pretty competitive to get an aviator spot, but that changes all the time. Sometimes they need more than other times. The way you set yourself apart is by doing the easy things right, the simple things, the things that you can control. So you can get a good GPA in college, and if you maybe you're not a 4.0 student, but you can get the best GPA that's for you. Get the highest test score you can, prepare for your standardized tests, because they actually look at your SATs on your initial entrance. So grades, test scores, and maybe you're not that smart. Maybe you're like me, then PT. So we have a PFT, a physical fitness test. There's a lot of guys coming in with like a 250 PFT, and like when you're starting out, you're not necessarily used to running those tests. So some people don't do that well in their initial PFT. But the guys that are doing 300, 290 PFTs coming in, meaning they're doing like 23 pull-ups, 18-minute 3-mile run, and 110 crunches or whatever the plank time is, those guys set themselves apart. Especially when you talk about initial sessions. When people come into the Marine Corps, when we're looking at qualified candidates, we get a lot of qualified people to go. And sometimes the decision-making factor is who's going to make it through training. And if we know you're physically fit, then we have no concerns about you making it through training physically. At that point, it's just up to you, up to your mental strength. So oftentimes, if it's between two people, we'll pick the person with the higher PFT score. So it's a good way to make sure you're competitive. With regards to specifically preparing for aviation, there's really not a whole lot that you need to do other than know what your goal is and work to achieve that goal. So if you know you want to be a pilot, then know that's your long-term goal. Set up intermediary goals and be like, okay, well, to be a pilot, I have to graduate school. I have to get accepted in this program. I have to be able to smoke a PFT. I have to be able to get through training, and focus on those goals one at a time. And that way, when you do get to the point where you can be a pilot, you can focus on that. As far as in having that natural passion for it, and just like knowing about aviation, because you look at stuff in your free time, that's going to help you along the way as well. But specifically with regards to like studying or flight prep, there's really not a whole lot you can do. We actually break down the data at flight school, and there's no major difference between people that have flight experience and don't when they enter flight training. And if anything, which is really negligible, but there's like a fraction of a percent more failures from people with prior flight experience. So you don't need to focus on that. What you need to focus on is being qualified to get to flight school. So I would say break it down into smaller goals.
Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Hello, sir.
Hey.
Hello. My name is Patrick Howell from Covington County. And my question is, when you first enlisted into the Marines, did you have plans of going to the Naval Academy?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time? I couldn't quite hear you.
Yeah. When you first enlisted into the Marines, did you ever have plans of going to the Naval Academy? And if not, how did that work?
So I knew I wanted to be a pilot someday, and I knew that it wasn't going to be an option. I initially thought it wasn't an option for me, and after I enlisted to be a crew chief, that was kind of my way of doing the next best thing. And then as I got through that process and met a few people and became aware that it was a potential for me, then I started making that the goal, and I shifted gears and started applying for that. I was fortunate to have some leadership that along the way that saw me, decided they wanted to help me, and then helped push me along in the right path. So that guidance was helpful. But no, when I enlisted, I wasn't really sure. It's one of those things where some people that had been in longer than me helped guide me along the way. So mentorship, I guess, to answer your question, would be the thing that drove me there.
Okay, thank you, sir.
No problem.
sir. My name is Tim Kusterback, number 0236. I'm part of Fish County, City of Manhattan. Sports. My question for you today is, will flying in one of the armed services give you an advantage when you fly commercially over others?
So I don't know that you necessarily have an advantage aside from, well, there's the starting your career aspect that I went over earlier. You're going to be getting paid a little bit more and getting some cooler flight time, for lack of a better term, for those first few years. There's a lot of military pilots in the airlines. So I'm not an airline pilot, but I imagine the culture is very much similar to a ready room in the fleet. So I got to think that there's a little bit of street cred and less culture shock for you when you show up to the airlines. But at the end of the day, any airline pilot that makes it to be a captain in the airlines is a qualified pilot. He knows what he's doing. So it's not, you don't have to do the military. It's just, it is an avenue to pursue. And I also happen to think that it's, if you really are passionate about aviation, you're not going to get to do cooler stuff in the air than you would in a military aircraft. And specifically, I think in the Marine Corps, all of our assets are focused on supporting the ground marine. So there's very few boring missions that we do.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you for your question.
Hello, sir. My number is 0574. My name is James Christopher Dwayne. I'm from Payton County.
All right.
And my question is, how long do you believe you have been flying in the Marines?
I'm sorry, can you say it one more time? I couldn't quite hear you.
My question is, how long have you been flying in the Marines?
How long have I been flying in the Marines? In total, I started flying in 06 when I was a crew chief. As a pilot, I've been flying since 2013, so almost 10 years now, with the exception of the last 2 years where I've been here. So I guess about 8 years of flight time.
Thank you, sir.
Good question. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brian Vernon from Spafford County, 0639, City Governor. And I was wondering if you can get like commercial airline certifications for different planes in the military, like Boeing 747 or 737.
Yeah, so sort of. So to get your private pilot's license and any certifications you get, it's going to be kind of on your own to apply for them. However, your military logbook is going to be going to give you the prerequisites to qualify. So when you finish flight school, you can send in some information and you get your private pilot's license. They'll send it to you in the mail. And then as a 53 pilot, not a whole lot of what I did was applicable to the outside, so I never pursued many of those. However, the jet guys and the C-130 guys and the Osprey guys, they will routinely apply for and get certifications for multi-engine or whatever they need. And then to go into the airlines to fly like a 747 or something, you would need to get rated in that type of aircraft. So there would be still a little bit of a learning process, but there's two aspects to being qualified. It's being qualified in an aircraft and then having the requisite hours of a certain type. So if you're a C-130 pilot or a jet pilot, you're gonna have, many, many multi-engine fixed wing hours, which would be it would satisfy one of the two requirements. Then you just need to get type rated at that point.
Thank you.
Hello, sir. My name is Michael Withers. My number is 0041. I'm from Roosevelt County, from the city of My question is, what has been the most difficult challenge that you've experienced throughout your career?
All right, the most difficult challenge I've faced throughout my career. Honestly, I will say the leadership aspect of the Marine Corps is the greatest challenge. It's also the most rewarding part of being a Marine officer. Being a pilot was my day job, but I also had Marines at the squadron that I was tasked with leading. And leadership in the Air Wing is especially challenging because in a platoon where we go PT together, we train together, we fight together. It's a more organic way to be a leader. In a shop with 60 mechanics that are experts in their jobs, and I'm not, and I'm a pilot, and I just fly the plane, and I'm often gone. That was a leadership challenge that I didn't always do perfect, but I always tried to. And striving to do that job well was always the greatest challenge, and also the one that I most look forward to. So I would say just trying to live up to the ideals of being a good leader is a challenge that in any leadership position in life that you have, you're going to have to deal with that. It'd be much harder than any physical challenge or personal endeavor that you take on.
Thank you so much.
Hello, sir. My name is Anthony Liddy, number 0227, Fish County, City of Van Patten. I was wondering if you had any tips for enlisted personnel who want to attend the service academy.
Tips for getting into a service academy?
Yes, for those who are, I guess, prior enlisted.
Oh yeah, so I will say, so I was prior enlisted when I went. That helped me out a little bit, but that is the long route. I don't recommend that. It's not a sure thing because you don't know where you're going to end up, and some units might not even let you go. You might go to your unit as an enlisted Marine, and then they might be like, no, we need you too bad. We can't sign off on that package. It takes a lot longer too. When I graduated the Naval Academy, I was 27, which was one of the oldest people in my class, and I was always a little bit alienated because of that. And that continues throughout my career today. Especially as a senior captain right now, I am older than most of the majors that I call sir on a day-to-day basis. You know what I'm saying? So that's something to consider. Not that that matters, but it matters to some people. The direct entry method is much preferred. The system is designed that way, so that is the most high-performing method of pursuing that. So to be competitive, to get into the Naval Academy, every extracurricular you can list them. I don't care how insignificant it is. I don't care how much you don't feel like you really put that much into it. If your name's in the club, it goes on your list. Other side of that coin, enroll in as many clubs as you can do. Do as much as you can, because that's going to show that you're active. Pursue leadership positions in those clubs. If you find one or two that you actually really are passionate about, try to be a president or a vice president or a treasurer or something that you can list. Be involved, do volunteer work, and when you enroll in these clubs, think about how much they're doing for other people, because a history of service is important. Service and leadership are what they're looking for, not just participation. So participation is huge to add to your list, but then try to orient some of the main ones towards service and leadership. Sports teams, if you can be a captain on the sports team, that's huge. Being on a team is also huge. So I would say if you want to go to academy, you need to be playing a sport every season. And then in the summer, find an extracurricular to fill your time in between seasons. But you need to be busy. And on top of that, then there's the grades and the test scores, because what that shows them is that you can handle a high workload for your own. You can take care of your own, clean up your own house, and also help others. So that's important to show. And then physical fitness, is always important. I'd say if you're going to pursue the military in any facet, you should or you should get a regular, working out should become a part of your life. And if it isn't now and you don't like it, just know that nobody likes working out when they start, so that'll change if you get into it. But I don't care if it's like jiu-jitsu, martial arts, or just running and doing push-ups. Something physical should be a part of your routine if you want to pursue that. So, does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
My name is Curtis Hannon from Roosevelt County, Yarmouth City. My question is, if the United States Marines is not in any armed conflict or war, what's the point in your opinion, and or what do they do?
All right. So I hinted at this earlier with the America's 911 force. So in a routine Marine unit, you're always going to deploy. That's the only branch where that's actually true. The only branch that continually deploy, the Navy and the Marine Corps. And in the Marine Corps, we're going to be on those MEUs. So if you're in in a squadron, for instance, if you're an aviator, you can count on there being an opportunity to deploy every 18 months. That's going to be a given. We do two types of deployments. We do Unit Deployment Program, UDP, and that's like when I said I went to Okinawa, Japan. So I went to Okinawa, Japan. We worked with Japanese and Korean forces, and we trained. And that was the big part of the deployment. There's also one to Honduras, where we train with counter cartel forces, and then there's also Norway in Europe, where we do exercises with NATO up there. Then there's the MEU, where you go out on a ship, and you'll do training throughout the globe. You'll stop in various ports, but you're also on call. So if there's a disaster or a humanitarian aid mission, There was an earthquake in Nepal probably about 10 years ago now, and a bunch of my buddies on the MEU went in and helped rescue people that were trapped after the hurricane. In Haiti, after their big earthquake, a lot of Marines went down there to help with that. So you're going to do whatever mission you're called upon to do on those MEUs, to include combat, let's think. So, for instance, I'm thinking of like Libya, for instance, when that kicks off or something. You know, we might have people at some sort of a base or maybe at an embassy, and we got to get them out. The MEU is going to go in there and pull those guys out, and they're going to provide security for that. I don't know if does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Awesome. Good question.
Hello, sir. Neil Stringer, McNeely County. Just wondering, how much tactical or strategic training did you receive?
Quite a bit. So tactical training is going to be all of it. We're always learning, getting tactical training. I told you about Marine TBS. That's a lot of tactical training there. In the squadron, daily, we brief all of our flights as if they're a tactics flight. So even if we're just flying a routine daytime mission in Southern California, we're briefing notional enemies in notional scenarios, or even maybe no enemies, maybe a humanitarian aid or some sort of other mission profile so that we can practice. Picture just like in a football practice, you might practice plays over and over again to make sure you can do it without thinking about it. We do the same thing. We create scenarios for combat missions that are very similar to actual combat scenarios, and then we do them over and over again, so that way when the day comes where we'll do a real one, you really can't tell the difference. Most pilots that have red time will tell you unless they actually get shot at, it doesn't feel any different to do that mission than it does to do it at home, because they practice the same way.
All right, thank you, sir.
No problem. Did it? All right. Hey, thank you all for your time, and I'll be around a little bit. If you want more information, I'm more than happy to give you my personal information, my work email rather, and I'll link you up with folks that can help you get in the programs.
In gratitude for his speaking, we are presenting a certificate of appreciation for American Legion Boy State.
Thank you very much.
And this we call Boy State swag. Thank you very much. All right. Our next speaker will be Captain Daniel Stuckert, who's going to talk about ROTC opportunities.
Boy State, who's feeling tired right now? A little bit? All right. Who's feeling fulfilled? Who feels like they earned something so far? Good amount? All right. That's what I'm talking about. All right. The opportunity I'm going to talk to you about today lets you feel like that every day, tired and fulfilled, all right? So the NROTC Scholarship, Marine Option, this is the path that I used to become a Marine officer. Captain Grothaus talked to the Naval Academy a little bit. I'll talk to the NROTC program. So a little bit about myself. Captain Daniel Stuckert, I was raised in Scranton, Pennsylvania, not too far from the New York border. Went to Penn State on the NROTC Scholarship. Graduated 4 years. I studied international relations. So anybody here interested in world history? Cool, awesome. I was too. Somebody asked a question to Captain Grothaus about what do the Marines do. If you look back through world history, there's so many instances of something happening on short notice and the Marines being the ones to respond to it, like Panama and Grenada. So studied, graduated my time at Penn State after 4 years, went down to the basic school, which Captain Grothaus already spoke to a little bit, and then I became an infantry officer from there. So after going to the infantry officers course, also in Quantico, Virginia, I went out to 29 Palms, California. It's a desert, it's the Mojave Desert. They call it the High Mojave or the Low Desert. It's a beautiful area, and it gives a lot of room for hard training. As an infantry officer, that's what we spent a lot of our time doing. In my 5 years that I've been in the Marine Corps, besides my training and coming out here to run this program, I've also trained with the Japanese, I've trained with the Army, I've trained with Filipinos, and I've trained with the Koreans. So I've gotten the opportunity to get out and explore the world a little bit. Okay, but how did I get there? So, you know, not too long ago, I was in the spot you guys were. I was about 17 years old, junior year, going into senior year, and I didn't know, you know, what I wanted for my life. But I knew I wanted to give back, and I knew that I wanted to be through military service. So I found out about the NRTC program. This is a very competitive scholarship. It's available to all of you who are rising seniors. This is a competitive screening process. The average selection score for our physical fitness test is about a 270 PFT. So you can look up the Marine Corps' physical fitness scores on your own time, but basically that's about maxing out 20 pull-ups, maxing out 100 crunches, and then getting something like a sub-24 3-mile run. So some of the basic qualifications of the scholarship and the benefits for it. From where you're at right now, there's an online application that you go to. You fill out that online application over this summer while you're still engaged, coming off of Boise State. Why not just do it this weekend, okay? Then I'll hit you up once I see that you started that online application, and you'll come up to Albany, New York, or if you're from Long Island or the city, you'll go to Long Island. And if you're out by Rochester to Buffalo, you'll most likely go down to Pittsburgh. From there, you'll run a physical fitness test, a Marine Corps physical fitness test. You'll interview with 2 officers, and you'll do some additional paperwork. That's your whole package, okay? There are 2 deadlines for that. The first deadline is 31 October for the first scholarship board this next November, first week in November. The second deadline for that is 31 January for the later board, the first week of February. Those are your 2 deadlines. So between now and then, you want to get out that online application, your physical fitness test, and your officer interviews, okay? If you make it in time to that early board and you're not a recipient of the scholarship on the early board, your whole package is automatically rolled to the regular board. So the sooner you guys get on this application if you're interested, you get 2 opportunities where everyone else that misses that first deadline is only going to get 1 opportunity for the scholarship. So the benefits of the scholarship. You get enrolled in a 4-year university of your choosing as long as it has an NRTC program or a crosstown affiliate program with another school nearby, okay? It is a full tuition up to $180,000 scholarship. You get a monthly stipend. That's like a allowance. You get money in your pocket every month while you're at school on this scholarship. It grows each year from $250 a month as a freshman up to $450 a month as a senior. You also get a book stipend at the start of each year, and any uniforms that you need for the NRTC program are provided to you, okay? So significant financial benefits from this. That's the difference between you coming out of college debt-free, even maybe making a little bit of money if you work a job on campus, and your peers who are going to be coming out of college with, you know, several tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt depending on where they go to school. So beyond the financial benefits, the main goal of this program is that you commission on the other end of college as a second lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps. This is an officer-producing program. It is the largest officer-producing program that we have in the Marine Corps. So like I said, it's a competitive screening process. The average PFT is about 270 for those that were selected this last year. Once you're selected, if you take this scholarship and go to your school on the scholarship, you have physical training, PT, a couple times a week, as well as training events throughout your first 3 years of college. And then unique to the Marine Corps, you go to the Marine Corps Officer Candidate School. Now, if you go there on the NRTC scholarship, Captain Grodhouse alluded to it being 10 weeks. If you go there on the NRTC scholarship, you go to what's called OCS Seniors. You do 6 weeks of the course. You do the final 6 weeks. So you come in, hit the ground running, knock out all these graded events at Officer Candidate School. You'll be graded on academics, leadership, and physical fitness. If you complete that course, then you've completed the assessment and the screening process to become a Marine Corps officer. When you graduate college, you then pin on as a second lieutenant and go to TBS, okay? So what sets us apart? I would say United States Marine Corps officers are unique in their self-discipline, their initiative, and their leadership. Marine officers are not created overnight. Those are the leadership traits that are fundamental to what makes us Marine officers, but 4 years of growth through an NROTC program are what gets you there for success as a Marine officer. So it's an excellent program. I enjoyed it. It's 4 years of your basic classes and then the NROTC program layered on top of it. You can play sports and do other clubs while in college on this program. Most NROTC programs will work with your sport or your other programs on top of that, okay? So that's kind of the basic overview of this program. It's a challenge. There's a screening process involved. You must be physically fit. It's demanding. You'll be challenged every day. Who feels like they've been challenged by the Marines while they were here in the last couple of days? Everybody here, right? Yeah, I'd agree, right? I have too. Every single day as a Marine officer, I am working to see where I can mold these guys, hone these guys, make them better so that they can lead you better, so that they feel better, more fulfilled when they walk away from the Marine Corps. That's the challenge of being a Marine officer. You have to be physically fit. You have to step up to the plate to lead men like Sergeant Diaz, Sergeant Burnett, these men that have been walking you around all day, these Marines. That's the responsibility of a Marine officer, their life, their livelihood, and their training, okay? So that's all I really have for the scholarship. I'm going to open it up for questions, so go ahead and if you have anything, feel free to ask.
My name is Dominic Stradi, 0209, Covington County, and I was wondering when the due dates for the application are.
The dates for the application. So the first deadline is going to be 31 October. That's for the early board. The regular board deadline is 31 January. So I can't speak for the program managers out of Pittsburgh and Long Island, but I'll be starting my PFTs and officer interviews sometime around mid-August.
And what advice would you have for people that want to attempt the application?
My advice? Work on your physical fitness, and the things that you have immediate control over are SAT scores, physical fitness, and your GPA in high school. So as you start your senior year, stay on top of your grades. Don't slack off. If you plan on taking the SATs, the first time you take them might not be the best score. Don't let that get you down. Retake them a couple times. Almost everybody's scores improve each time they take the SATs. If you don't plan on taking the SATs, you have no intention, but the scholarship interests you, you can get with your local recruiter and go take the ASVAB at MEPS without actually swearing into anything. You just go up to take the ASVAB, and we can use that score for your application as well. But the main thing that you all have control over as individuals is your physical fitness. Look up the Marine Corps PFT if you're interested in it, and train to those standards. You want to aim to max that thing out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Joseph Randolph. My number is 0541. I'm from Pedro County. I'm asking a question of why did you choose the Marines over the other branches?
It's a good question. So part of it was the legacy. When I was a kid growing up, my father, he worked for the State Department. He spent a lot of time overseas in conflict countries, places like Liberia, places like Somalia and Iraq after 9/11. And the reputation that the Marines had, their reputation as warriors and professionals, he brought that back with him. I heard about it very frequently growing up. That attracted me more than anything else. So that's why I chose the Marine Corps.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
My name is John Mallory. My number is 0429, and I was going to ask if there's any main advantage of an NROTC program over the academy, and also if you do not get into an academy your first year and choose NROTC, is it worth to reapply and have an extra year?
Okay, those are great questions because they apply to pretty much anyone that's interested in either one. I'll tell you this, if you are applying to the academy and you are not applying to the NROTC scholarship, you're being thick-headed and stubborn and you're cheating yourself of opportunity. If you are worthy of being accepted of one, you can get both. So if you're applying for the academy, I highly encourage you, you should be applying for the NROTC scholarship as well. The advantages of one over the other, I wouldn't say there's advantages. I think that there's an officer program out there that fits different people differently depending on where they are when they find out about it and what their goals are. I really enjoyed the NROTC program because I had the freedom to enjoy my college life, study, take clubs outside of NROTC. I went to a large state school. I went to Penn State, 40,000 undergraduates. So I got the full college experience while still being held to maintain my grades by my Marine officer instructor. The Naval Academy has a more rigid structure. You're around the military your entire 4 years. You don't get to kind of dip your toes in. You're in it full throttle from day one. So they give the same opportunity to commission as a Marine officer, and once you hit the fleet, no one's gonna know where you commissioned from. It won't make a difference in your reputation. You earn that yourself. It won't make a difference in your career. You set that for yourself through your hard work. So it's really look into each one, see which one fits you best and your interests, and see that application through. I did not apply to the Naval Academy. I applied to the NROTC scholarship. I was happy with it, but part of me is going to wonder, like, would I have gotten into the academy if I applied? I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Hello, I'm Thomas Capitas from 0527 from Pedro County. And I'm wondering, you didn't mention basic training. Is there like the regular 10 weeks of basic training that you have before you go off to school on the scholarship?
No, not at all. So for you to apply for the scholarship, you do that completely from, civilian high school standpoint. You don't have to enter the delayed entry program or anything like that. I never saw an actual Marine until I went to go take my PFT with the person who was in my position, 10 years ago. So you don't attend officer candidate school until you've already been in the NROTC program in college 3 years. Then you go the summer after your junior year. And then if you pass OCS and you commission, then you go to the basic school in Quantico, Virginia for 6 months. Does that answer your question? Cool.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have another question? Okay, cool.
Good morning, sir. My name is Dominic Ambrose from Pedro County, and I was wondering if you had an idea of how expansive the list was of the schools that have the program.
Okay, how expansive the list is of schools with NROTC. The number right now is something like 150 to 180 schools that have their own NROTC program. If this is a scholarship that interests you and you're looking at your school and it doesn't look like it has an NROTC program, it may have what's called a crosstown affiliate program. The example I go to is Carnegie Mellon and the University of Pittsburgh. University of Pittsburgh has its own NROTC program. Carnegie Mellon does not. But Carnegie Mellon works with the NROTC program in Pittsburgh, so a student at Carnegie Mellon just reports to the NROTC program at University of Pittsburgh for their morning PTs and their leadership lab and their naval science class. Other than that, they're still a full-time student at Carnegie Mellon. So best thing you can do if you are interested in the scholarship but it doesn't look like the school has a program, call the school. If you call, look for the number online and call the school this summer, and you can kind of narrow that down. The same website that you used to apply for the scholarship also has a list of schools on it, so you can dig around for that as well.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Good morning, sir. My name is Anthony Kaminsky, number 0278 from Fish County, City of Morrill. And you mentioned that the Marines travel across the world and train in several different countries. Is there ever a need for translators?
A need for what?
Translators?
In the Marine Corps?
Yes, sir.
Yes, so let me think. With the Japanese provided a translator. He actually was born in Japan and then grew up in San Diego, spoke great English, then came back to serve his country in the Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force. So the 2 months that I was in Japan last year, he was our go-to translator. Anytime their units would come out, he would be with them and did a great job with that. As far as the Philippines, the Marines brought their own translator, but he was held at a higher level than the platoon that I was with. So I didn't work with him too much. He did more of the translation for like colonels and generals speaking back and forth. We interacted with them with kind of broken English and sticks drawing things in the sand and kind of like pointing and beating our chest. Kind of, does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Does that answer your question, or do you have a more specific question about like translator opportunities in the Marine Corps?
Yeah, I just had a more specific question about like if you want to go into the Marine Corps as a translator.
So there's no officer translator MOS in the Marine Corps. There are enlisted translator MOSs. If you go into the Marine Corps, depending on the MOS that you have, the officer community does have intelligence MOSs, ground intelligence, air intelligence, things like that. If you get one of those MOSs, then the Marine Corps may send you to the DoD's language school, where you would be assigned a language and you study that language for 6 months until you're able to fluently speak it, and then they kick you out to that area of the world and you do your MOS out there. Another thing worth noting is depending on a language that you speak, if any of you in here speak a foreign language fluently, the DoD, if you test out on it, will pay you extra to serve in the military if you speak that language. Even if you're not in an MOS that uses it, I as an infantry officer, if I spoke fluent and could write fluent Mandarin, Chinese or something, I could get extra money for that on my paycheck. Does that answer your question more thoroughly?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good question. Thank you.
I'm Aiden McLojak, number 0393, Shiberling County, City Cities. And I wanted to ask you the same question. Since every man has met a great man, I want to know about the greatest man that you've ever met and what was he like?
My father, for sure. Spent, like I said, his entire adult life has been long deployments with no recognition or award because he wasn't wearing a uniform while I did it. He's fought in places like Fallujah and Ramadi, but kept going back for more to provide us with a better life. He kept me honest throughout my life, taught me some hard leadership lessons, made sure if I lied, cheated, or stole, and he found out about it, he held me accountable to that. Had me involved with things like physical fitness and reading at a young age. He's been a warrior. He's been someone that I could look up to. And yeah, that's definitely my answer.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kevin Gam from Fish County, Morrow City. My number is 0268. And I was wondering if there's like a certain degree you have to get, or like for a medical degree or going to medicine, like their best pathway to go with the scholarship.
Can I ask you to ask that again? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I can get one. Is there like a certain degree you need to like get for this, or like I want to go into like medicine? Is there like a best pathway to go into medicine?
So that's a great question. The Marine Corps doesn't care what your degree is in to become an officer, as long as you have a 4-year degree. So you could be a French major, an English major, you could be international relations, mechanical engineering, aerospace engineering, nuclear engineering. As long as you earn that 4-year degree from one of the accredited universities, it's all the same to the Marine Corps. Every officer enters the basic school on an equal foot, regardless of the school that they came from or what they studied in college. The Marine Corps will train you to what it needs from you, and then hold you accountable to that.
And then if you wanted to do like medicine, is there like something else you'd have to do for that?
So the Marine Corps does not have its own medical officers. The Navy has a medical officer program. The Navy medical officer program, I'm not myself super familiar with. The Army, I would assume, also has a medical officer program similar to the Navy's, but the Marine Corps does not have its own.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hello, I'm called in here from Fish County. My number is 0262. My question is, at Penn State, did you attend the football/whiteout games, and how fun were they?
Yes, I attended Penn State football games. They were very fun. You meet a lot of great people through the NROTC program. You meet great people outside of it as well at a big school like Penn State. So, yeah, that's going back to the earlier question of, I know the Naval Academy has its own sports as well. You can go to those games, but going to a big school like Penn State, like you get to throw yourself into that massive college environment with things like football games. We got into wrestling meets for free, stuff like that. So yeah, nothing about the NROTC program prevents you from going to those events.
Thank you. We are.
Penn State. Can't hear you.
I had a really quick question. You said that the average score for PFT was 270. I was curious if you had any idea of what the average score for like an SAT is and what the average GPA would be for recipients of the scholarship.
Yeah, good question. So SAT, I think the average selection SAT this year was about 1250. GPA, I wouldn't say there was an average GPA. Typically, these things are all balanced out in the application. So the strength of your application, even if you're not super strong in academics and maybe you don't hit like the average 1250 SAT, if you have an above 1,000, you hit like a 1100 SAT, but you've got a 300 PFT, that'll balance your application out against someone who has the average selection numbers across the board. So yeah, I can't think of an average GPA, but about 1250 SAT.
All right, thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the questions, guys. Good stuff.
There you go. You gotta get your souvenirs.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, it's swag time. Here's our certificate of appreciation.
Thank you, sir.
Here it is.
Thank you very much.
Swag bag. Mr. Tom Schreck, who's my co-director of program at Boise State, has an announcement to make referable to the state police and sheriffs.
Good morning, all. Will all state police and all county sheriffs at 12:30 report to room 108 in the headquarters Carlson building, or the Crawford building. 12:30. Thank you.
Okay, our final speaker will be Mr. Scott Toth, who currently runs our website. He wants to talk to the Boise Staters about some options for returning to Boise State to help us. Mr. Toth.
All right, good morning, Boise State. Mr. Scott Toth. My day job, I'm the enrollment officer for Army ROTC at Clarkson University. So just I don't want to go through the whole process again, but we have a similar program in the Army ROTC. If you do want to learn about that program, myself, Mr. Fletcher, Mr. Donahue will be in the STUAC tomorrow morning. So come see us to learn a little bit about Army ROTC, which is very similar to Navy ROTC. But I don't really want to talk about that this morning. What I wanted to talk about is two things. Number one, I've been working on the website all week and all our social media. What I'd like to ask you to do is please stay in touch over the next year or two. All right, get on those social. I know you guys aren't on Facebook anymore. You know, it's Snapchat or TikTok or whatever. I would tell you as a recruiting officer, I know where you guys are at. And I try to, post stuff on the platforms you guys are at. Our Instagram is doing well, and I'm sure some of you use Instagram. That's probably my best platform. I don't use TikTok. That we're not allowed to, and Snapchat really isn't something that I can do well. So Instagram, Facebook, and our webpage. All right, right now your moms and dads are out there watching it and posting. We're getting, you know, hundreds of hits every time I post a picture. So please stay in touch. All right. Last year they had the virtual Boys State. They established a Discord server, right? So a lot of you guys will be sharing your Discord handles or whatever. I would tell you that Discord channel went pretty quiet after about 2 weeks. Because you guys, this is a life-changing experience for you guys, but 3 weeks from now, you're going to be on to your next life-changing experience. And a year from now, or you know, this fall when you start your senior year, it's going to be another life-changing experience. And every time you start your applications or visit an academy, and then when you start college, life-changing experience after life-changing experience. So you may forget about us, right? But stay in touch and know how to reach out to us. And the reason why is we'd like for you guys to come back. All right, could I have my junior counselors please stand up? All right. 1, 2. All right, I would tell you that typically, prior to COVID, our goal was to have a junior counselor with every county, right? We got 4 junior counselors here this year. 2 of them were supposed to come in 2020, and the program got canceled. One of them was in the virtual. You guys can sit down. I'm sorry. One of the guys was in the virtual program last year, right? He really probably shouldn't be here as a junior counselor. I'm going to get to that in a second, but he's here. So 4 this year. We'd like to have 10. In fact, we'd like to have more than 10. So let me talk a little bit about that. What does it take to be a junior counselor? We would like, preferably, somebody with ROTC experience, right? I brought 3, cadets this year, preferably ROTC experience. But if not, hopefully you're finishing up your college freshman year and you come back. If you want to come back earlier, you're probably not going to be a county counselor. We're probably going to have you help with the website or help with the yearbook. Mr. Bangarico, who you've seen doing just about everything, he came back his first year here as a junior counselor. He was supposed to just help with the website or something, and because we were shorthanded, he got put in a county, and he was able to be a junior counselor, and now we're making him do everything. So I would love to see some of you guys here next summer helping me with the website or helping out with Mr. Bulger and potentially being a county counselor. And then I'd love to see some of you guys in 2 years come back as first year ROTC cadets or college freshmen and come help these older gentlemen get you guys, and the Marine. And what's the advantage of coming back as a cadet? You're going to work with the veterans, and you're also going to work with that Marine. You're going to get a little bit of leadership experience. I mean, when you talk to Cadet Toplitsky or Cadet Moss, after this experience, they're going to be better cadets, and they will have the leadership experience that's valuable. So, again, keep in touch. And I'd love to hear you. If you do want to be the way to reach out to us, Ann Brown, you can contact Ann Brown. You can direct message us on any of the social media platforms, and feel free to email me, stoth@clarkson.edu, and let me know you want to come back as a junior counselor. All right? All right, thank you.
And it's no swag for him. All right. We're going to have a sports update. Jonathan Becker.
Morning, gentlemen. Please pay attention to the schedules today, because if you win, you will play again. We are going to try to knock out all of the championship games for basketball, softball, and soccer. Following the championship basketball game, we are going to put the Boys State champion basketball team to the test, and they are going to play a team of Marines at 1600 or somewhere around there. So We're going to try to have that in the STUAC building if we can get some of the main baskets down. If not, we'll have that outside so that we can have it full court. So stay posted on that. One more thing, tomorrow, following the morning assembly, or 10:30 approximately, somewhere in there, we're going to have the cross-country run. That will start in the parking lot outside the football stadium, so you'll have a chance to run back and get changed for that. It is very important that you bring your pin. Every year we see guys that don't show up with their pins and we have to wait and it delays everything. You must wear your pin while you're running the race, so please don't forget that. And again, hope to see everyone there tomorrow, whether running or cheering everyone on. Thank you.
Okay, all county executives are going to stand now. The county executives, please stand. County executives, please remain up here after the assembly for photographs. Okay, we're about to close. When we're done, what? Mr. Charles Osterhout, our ceremony supervisor, is going to talk to you about final assembly tomorrow.
Morning, gentlemen. Time's getting short. Okay. Tomorrow morning, or tomorrow afternoon, when we fall in here, the first 4 or 5 seats are be taken up by your counselors. You're going to be your senior counselor, your regular counselor, your city counselors, and if you have a junior counselor, then the Marine. So make adjustments tomorrow morning when you come in. Have you say how you want to fit onto it, and we can go from there. So you guys have been great this year. I appreciate everyone's help. Thank you.
So, as we dismiss, please police your areas, pick up any scraps of paper or anything, straighten the chairs as best you can. You'll fall out and form up for instructions from your counselors and your Marine. Good to go? Yes, sir. Okay, we'll now retire the colors. The retiring county is Kogatek. Retire the colors. Hand salute. Gentlemen, you are dismissed. All right.